The next segment of our agenda today focuses on trends in customer-centric marketing. And our next presentation is going to talk about, well, the death of the website and what that means, a radical digital transformation. So please give a warm round of applause for Robert LoCascio from LivePerson.
How's everyone doing? So it's a big title, The Death of the Website. I'm here to talk about what I think is one of the greatest changes that's going to happen with the internet as we know it, and also one of the greatest opportunities. I wrote an article in TechCrunch a couple of weeks ago about this, and there was a lot of debate. People said, well, you're crazy because LivePerson still has a website. So how can this guy say there's going to be the end of the website? My company, LivePerson, I started 25 years ago. I invented chat. So if you ever use chat for customer care, I invented that technology. We have over 17,000 customers. We manage 1.3 billion interactions a month come through our servers of chat interactions. And we work with some of the biggest brands on earth. So I have sort of an insight into what's happening with the internet since I was one of the original pioneers back in 1995. I also got this article came out in Handelsblatt last year as Bot God. So only in Germany am I the Bot God. E-commerce, as we know it, has failed. If you were like myself in 1995 and was working on building websites and the dream of e-commerce, you would have thought by now that it would be the majority of commerce in the world would be e-commerce. But today, only 11% of commerce in the world is actually e-commerce. And if you're in the United States, 44% of e-commerce happens with one brand, and that's Amazon. So for the rest of companies that have websites, e-commerce is not a hit. It's not a promise that came through. It's not the end of brick and mortar as we know it. It really has just been a failed mission. Why? If you look at back in the 90s when we were involved with creating the internet and pieces of it like chat and HTML and all that, the basic technology internet was basically based on a library. And the original concepts were organizing the world's information and indexes and all these things. So when you think about a library, the library concept very rarely has gotten changed into a store. How many libraries do we know have become stores? So the basic construction and underlying technology, which is about static content, is not really appropriate for commerce. To give you an idea of some statistics, only 2.3% on average of people who go to a website will buy. These are active people who clicked on a Google ad, who took time out of their day, like all of us, and who went to a website. Only 2.3% will buy. And there's another statistic that we track, which is 60 to 80% of the phone calls that happen to a contact center start at a website. These are people who have gone to a website. We've all been there. We've looked for the information. We don't want to pick up the phone and call an 800 number or call the brand. We want to find the information, but 60 to 80% of the times, we end up calling. Now, here's an extraordinary statistic. And if you really are an innovator and you're an entrepreneur, this statistic, I would say, hold on to. This is what changed my thinking about where to take my company. There are 268 billion phone calls that happen every day to contact centers around the world. No, excuse me, every year. Probably going to be every day soon, but 268 billion every year at a cost of 1.4 trillion. So think of this. This is how it stacks up. There's $500 billion spent every year on advertising. There's 2.3 trillion spent on e-commerce. And right smack in the middle are phone calls. So you got to ask yourself, what are phone calls? Phone calls are conversations. And what we know now is, as humans, we need to have conversations sometimes to do a commercial transaction, to buy something, to get customer support. Reading something on a website is not good enough. So what this world is that's evolving is a world we call conversational commerce. And 4 years ago, I realized this, and I bet my entire company on it. Although we were leading at chat, I decided to abandon that and bet the entire company on building a conversational commerce platform. It took about 4 years to build. We launched it a year ago. But I had such a passion about what I think is the future of digital that I decided to put all the chips in. Now, what is happening in the world is that you and I, we are messaging our friends and family. We use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, SMS, and we are messaging our friends and family. But yet, when we have to connect with a company, with a brand, we have to make a phone call. So our consumer behavior has changed. But yet the brand has not. And this is the opportunity for all of us, is bringing together the consumer behavior with what a brand should be communicating and connecting and how they should be communicating and connecting with the consumer. And messaging is the vehicle for conversational commerce. Now, part of conversational commerce are voice agents like Amazon Alexa, Google Home. All the voice assistance products are part of this. And obviously, Amazon has made a tremendous bet. They spend over $3 billion a year on Alexa. And I think when you look at what Amazon's strategy is, they never won the mobile battle. They tried. They had their Fire mobile device. They lost that. But Jeff Bezos does not want to lose the conversational commerce space. And that's why they've bet very heavily on Alexa. But this is one part of it. The most exciting part is this. Apple, 8 weeks ago, launched Apple Business Chat. Now, a consumer can connect to Apple and through iMessage can connect directly with the brand securely. Google Chat's coming out, which is also going to do the same thing. WhatsApp, in a few months from now, will allow brands to connect directly into WhatsApp. We have Line, we've got WeChat, so there are all of the ways in which a brand can connect to the consumer through messaging is about to happen or has happened. We are working with Apple Business Chat for over a year now and pioneering this with them. And I can tell you, Apple and Google are making big bets that on your device you will message brands, that you will not be picking up the phone and calling a brand, but you will be messaging it. So for all of us here, if you're in digital, abandon everything you're doing with HTML. Give up everything you're doing with the web, because these large companies, including Amazon, have made the big bet with conversational commerce. Here's some examples here with Apple Business Chat. Half the Apple Business Chat customers who went live are live on our platform. So Lowe's, Home Depot, big home improvement companies, Discover Card, which is a credit card company, and T-Mobile is also one of our customers on there. So you can see it's a rich experience. Pictures, maps, you can check inventory. You can create an experience that's as rich as a website, if not better. And more importantly, is you are in the pocket of the consumer. And once the consumer purchases or messages, a month later as a brand, you can go back to them. You can say, hey, how are you doing? I've got something for you. That's the power of conversational commerce. It's a connected experience that happens forever between the consumer and the brand. These are just T-Mobile, who Robert Gary runs the program for T-Mobile. And this is what he talked about. Web is a 20-year-old platform, and we've never been working with Messenger for 20 weeks. We've only been working with Messenger for 20 weeks. Apples to apples, when it comes to conversion rates, they get a 12% improvement on Messenger over web. So when you look at T-Mobile for selling, they are selling more conversions through Facebook Messenger than they are through the web. And this is on the cost-saving side. We went live with Sky UK a year ago, and when you dial and you're a customer of Sky UK, and you'll dial into the IVR. That's the technology where it says press 1, press 2, press 3. One of the selections is press 1 to drop the phone call, and we'll message you immediately. 40% of the people now drop a phone call and went to messaging. Think of that, 40% of people off the bat never called again. So the power in customer care, the power in sales is there. So to end here is, when you look at Amazon and Amazon's strategy, and I think we all have an admiration for them today, they have bet hard on this. They both have messengers, right? They have a messenger product right now that you can message them from customer care, and obviously they have Alexa. So once again, as an opportunity for all of us, I think the halls here one day will be filled with conversational commerce companies, not companies that are selling things on the web. So with that, I want to thank you. Hopefully you all join me in this great race. I believe in the next 3 years, there will be a tremendous amount of opportunity here for all of us, and I would say get into it, because in 3 years from now, I feel like it's going to be done. I feel like all the big companies, all the startups will have made their way. So it's a great opportunity now to get in first. Thank you.
We've got time for questions from the audience. I want to ask you, why 3 years?
When you see, I've been around over 20 years, and when you see the amount of activity happening right now between Google and Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, and especially Apple Business Chat and Google Chat, yep, are going to drive a tremendous amount of demand. Those two companies made big bets that Messenger is going to power these conversations between the consumer and the brand. So I think it'll take about 3 years, but there's a lot of activity happening. Yeah. But every brand is going to want to be there. Every company is going to want to be on those devices. Are you surprised today still that people are willing to give up not speaking with another person and chatting instead? Yeah, I mean, I had a vision of chat. Yeah. But I've always believed that the conversation is what powers commerce. I think it's very hard to, as a human, to just read something and think I'm going to spend my money, especially high-ticket items. Right. So that's where I see chat and messaging as really, has been driving it. So. Mm-hmm. Questions from the audience? We got one here, this gentleman here, and then right there.
Thanks for the presentation. Regarding web technology, most of the web evangelists, they bet on open standards. Most of these chat platforms are more or less walled gardens. What is your opinion on this? This is the interesting thing. They are walled gardens, but the brands, what we see is the companies we're working with, like the T-Mobiles, they know that consumers are not going to bet on one of the walled gardens. So they're competing against each other. So in many ways, it's create an open standard. Because Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon, they all know they've got to create great platforms. But you as a consumer, you may come through one time in another place another time. So they're not being so closed about it. They realize that the consumer is going to come through any one of these platforms. Not one of them is going to win. So although it's a closed garden, they're very open today because they're competing. So. And actually, I think SMS, when you look at SMS, which is in itself a communications platform that's obviously, it's as big as all the other messenger platforms, that's open. So we do a lot on SMS, and I would say it's a good place to start. Okay.
This gentleman here.
With the advent of the current advent of GDPR, do you see, as this is a stream for data security concerns for people to vent on, even with lack of knowledge, do you see this as a contestant to this market trend?
No, I don't. I mean, we are GDPR compliant, so we give the way a consumer can take their conversation and delete it. But I do think the next part of the journey here is that a consumer should own their own conversations and their own data. So when they show up to any of these platforms, they should be able to provide it if they want to and keep it if they don't. I do think that ultimately they should control the data, but that's the next step. And what we're even trying to architect with our platform is that even your conversations, the conversations are very rich. When you look at your conversation with a brand, it has a lot of data in it. We save that conversation. We don't sell it, we don't do anything, but we keep it. But I think one day you should own your conversations. You should own that data and decide if you want to give it to a brand. So.
Any more questions? Any more?
Last one.
All right.
Okay.
No more. All right. Robert, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.